Hey, what's going on, folks? Am I working? Is it working? That was crazy yesterday with all those problems. Let's see. I think I'm done with all those problems. I think I just need to move this one because I don't like it there. It's a little too bright. Maybe over here is better. How about up there? See, I like to try to just come on time rather than keep pushing it back a few minutes to like get all these little adjustments accurate. So I like to not have something too bright over in that corner. But look, I'll let you guys watch me obsess on how I line this stuff up. Okay, so I got the Statue of Liberty, and then I've got the Golden Gate Bridge, and then I've got my cool triangle stuff, and I got my subscribe, share, turn on your notification bell to ring. So I think we're all set. And I noticed that my thumb fell onto the floor, my dismembered thumb from the Addams family. I have a nice little spot for it right here. As long as it doesn't fall. Gravity sucks. Okay, I've got so much to talk about and I'm tired. So forgive me if I'm a little loopy. I thought maybe it'll be good if I come on loopy. You know, I kind of like everything to line up perfectly and to be well slept and well fed and brush my teeth, go to the restroom, have my water, my coffee, my notes. Oh no, my notes. No, I'm just kidding. I got my notes. I even have a picture of Gene Hackman. And I was going to do kind of like a musty bucket style, like, oh my goodness, do you see the baby in his hair? I think his wife was preggers and he got totally stressed out, and that's what happened. You can see the baby in his hair. Hey, Helby. You might not be familiar with the channel that we won't mention. How are you today, my dear? So you say good evening. I say good afternoon. Did you get to see the full moon? OMG. Beautiful. I got to see it like all night. I think it kept me up, but I feel rested somehow. You know, there's a thing that I believe about your sleep, which is that you're actually functioning off of the sleep from the night before last. So that's why if you have a night like last night for me, where the moon kept me up all night, I'm kind of fine. Like I have been feeling absolutely a-okay, but now watch my brain, like the springs will start flying out. I'm good, thanks. Yes, that full moon was ace. Yeah, it was gorgeous. I got to see it from the time it started. Hey Sherry, what's happening, girlfriend? So lovely to see you. Thanks for coming in, you guys. Can you hear me okay? Yesterday I had no technology on my laptop. It was crazy. Almost none. Sherry says, hey, Jazz, so windy here in Oklahoma. If I lose you, don't worry about it. No, I went to sleep and didn't see the moon. Well, I'm sorry that you missed the moon, but I'm glad you got your sleep. And I hope that the storm doesn't hit you too hard. I know it's coming our way, and there's going to be like a lot of tornadoes and 50 to 90 mile an hour winds. Good. You can hear me fine. Thank you. And I've got an itchy nose. I have a hanky here because I don't want to blow my nose on camera. That's kind of gross, but I'll just kind of duck down. And again, I have taken my little allergy pill, but yeah, the weather's been so warm. It's like 75 today. So the allergies are going a little bonkers. And enough about all that. Let's get going. I've got coffee. I've got water. Let me show you my cute mug because I think you'll love it. It's got a little raccoon on it. Isn't that funny? It's from the Smithsonian National Zoo. I think my husband bought it on one of the trips to see our son there in DC, who's making us grandparents next month. Amazing. And yeah, I try not to think about if there is that thing, you know, the WW, not talking about wrestling, I'm talking about the other WW. we have a son in active duty in the Navy, so it's a little worrisome. Anyway, let me do my disclaimer real quick and then get rolling. I've got my notes, the things that I want to talk about. Idaho 4, there's a lot that I've discovered. Hackman, a lot that I discovered, and government crap, which is just crazy, but there's been some good news lately. I don't know if it's like midnight tonight that we'll find out whether there's going to be a government shutdown or not. But Caroline with a K is just as hateful as ever. And she cray. She doesn't know what the F she's talking about. Okay, so everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, hopefully, be educational. And all my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. Did I forget anything? Thank you guys so much for being here. Perfect and loud and clear. And you can see the chakra tower, and I have all the candles turned on. So it is go time. All right. Rock and roll. Now I forget what I was going to talk about. Anna Bees, I got your package sent off. And I went ahead and trusted it into the hands of the feds. That was before I heard the most recent update that I just heard, which is that pretty much it sounds like almost every federal employee that has had their jobs snatched out of their hands is ordered. There's a court order to rehire all those people because the firings were 1,000% illegal. It doesn't mean that they'll get rehired. I would imagine that there will not be cooperation, and then we'll see what happens with holding the richest man in the world allegedly in contempt of court. I doubt you can hold El Presidente in contempt of court because El Presidente is immune from everything except war crimes, right? War crimes are war crimes. So yes, I got it sent off. I'm really happy. And the guy, the postmaster, asked me, he's like feeling it. He's like, "What is it?" I said, "A rock." He probably thought it was something more bad, I'm thinking like a pipe made out of a stone or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see if it gets there. They'll probably have to rip it open to check and see. I signed all the stuff saying it's all good. Anyway, I hope you get it soon. I would think that you will. Like he said, 3 days max. So today is Friday already. So then we have the weekend. So Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. I bet you'll get it Monday. I hope they all get their jobs back. I know. It's phenomenal. So like a whole bunch of them were ordered to get their jobs back yesterday, like a list of like 10 or 20 departments. And then today there was like gobs and gobs more listed off. Like they might as well just say if there's any that they aren't ordering back, because it sounds like they got them all covered. And that is way cool. I mean, how freaking twisted for our presidente to say, oh, there's going to be so many jobs. And then he's like stealing everyone's job, just like snatching it right out of their freaking hands. And federal jobs that are not easy, and they are real. They're very, very real. The benefits are very real. The security. Hey, Fred, what's happening? So I wanted to talk more about that, but I wanted to save that till the end. I wanted to start out with all this crap-ola that I've learned about the Idaho 4 case. And then I used a photograph, the photograph of the back of the corner club from the night of the slaughter. What is it, like 2-3 hours before the slaughter, depending on what time the slaughter was. And, we're always wondering who the man without a face is, right? And I'm more convinced than ever that that's Chief Small Fry. So I've done many photographs like on my community tab where I've put photographs of Chief Small Fry next to that photograph of what I call the man without a face, standing by the door, talking to Adam and Jack Showalter. And then it looks like Jack D sitting there talking to Kaylee and Maddie. And then there's a couple more people in the photograph. Like one is like way in the forefront. I never noticed the guy that's like right here. And then there's another guy that you can see his full face, like way back here. There's a couple other people, but now I'm wondering, who are they? Right? It's all very relevant. And what I have for you, what I discovered is the like summary update of the annual review that Chief Small Fry wrote before he retired a year early for his 30-year retirement. He retired at 29 years. And we know a lot of other people have retired as well, resigned, whatever. They're not there anymore. And then a whole bunch of people got promoted. So it's like 47 freaking pages. And I was reading it like it was a novel. Like I could not take my eyes off of it. And I was reading every single word for probably like the first 30 pages. And then I started getting really bored and just scanning it. But I took notes. So rather than reading it to you and having you guys get so bored that you decide to bail on me, I'm just going to tell you my highlights as long as they make sense. Like I said, I'm sleep deprived. I thought of some more stuff with the Hackman case that, again, I want to be trepidatious because we don't know what happened, but I think a lot of people were jumping to a lot of conclusions. And I have found some information just from sleuthing and sleuthing and sleuthing on the Google online, just basic regular stuff that anybody can sleuth. It seems that there were two homes right next door to each other that the Hackmans owned. And I don't know if they lived in both of them, but the addresses are online, so I won't be like doxing anybody because I found it online when I wasn't even trying. And I have it written down if anyone's interested, because it is interesting. And one of the reasons I was interested in looking at the address is I wanted to know how many buildings were on the property, because it's anywhere from 6 acres to 12 acres. So there's more than one building on the property, which is what I was kind of assuming. And there's the 14, you know what I'll do, just because I really don't want to be doxing anybody, and you'll be able to find what street it's on really easily if you just do the slightest digging. But the street is Old Something Trail. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. And it'll be like a Blue's Clues guessing game. But their address is 1425 and 1424. And I believe that it's 2 separate structures because I did a ton of digging. So the 1425 might have been built in 97. The 1424 might have been purchased in 2011, but it's hard to say. There's just a ton of real estate information. You know, I was also looking for real estate information in Idaho because I had looked up on some websites a couple of years ago that a lot of property in Moscow, Idaho, and I don't know if you're supposed to say Moscow or Moscow. I looked that up too, and it made me even more confused about the whole thing. Anyway, I don't think it really matters. You're talking about Idaho or you're talking about Russia, but the one that's here in the United States in Idaho, and I think that there's a Moscow in many states, if not all, I'm not sure. But the point is that a lot of the property in Moscow, Idaho is owned by actual Russians. And to me, when I looked at that a couple of years ago, it looked like as much as 80% of the entire city. But what's even more important is to remember that you have Chief Small Fry and his wife, Julie Fry, that were both put into positions of power like 2016, I think, was when Chief Fry got promoted to chief. 2018, I think, is when Julie got promoted into the position of like the treasurer for the entire county or the entire city. I think the city. And then she won an election on November 7th, I believe, of 2022, where she then became the clerk of courts for Latah County. So she's in charge of all of the public records requests. If you make a FOIA request, it's going to go through her. So she's going to be able to determine what gets sent out, what doesn't get sent out, what gets redacted. She'll be able to basically protect her hubby. And yeah, it seems to me more than ever that that's what's going on. No, you did not miss a crucial rant, I don't think, Mr. Field. Not that I know of. If anybody disagrees, you can say so. So starting with that annual update. So the annual update was from 2023, and it was 47 pages. It was written by Small Fry before he resigned, because he resigned about a year ago, I think, somewhere in there. I don't know exactly what month he resigned. He resigned at 29 years of his profession, not 30. So that's suspicious. He was running for sheriff, so it made sense, but he did not win the election for sheriff. So I don't know if he is unemployed. Collusion. What's that? I don't know if he's unemployed or if he's out being like a lawnmower man or a mule or what. I have no idea. Maybe he's just hanging out in the back of bars without a face. So where are we at? I think we are right here. Where do I start? So let me start with one of the things that's come up a lot all over the channels that cover the Idaho 4, which is from the texting back and forth between Bethany and Dylan. I'm not sure which one it was. I was going to say, I think it was Bethany that texted Dylan, "I'm screwed." But then people were like, maybe she meant scared. And I'm thinking maybe she didn't mean scared. Although I think that whichever one it is, Bethany or Dylan, that they've been like, yeah, that's what we meant. We meant scared. It could be that they were worried that they were going to get caught because they might not be so innocent. And Casey Green is the corporal that was in that video, and one of my lovely smart viewers pointed that out to me a few videos ago when I thought that it was Nathan Rosendahl, who we call Rosie, and Sergeant Blaker that went to the noise complaint call. I thought it was October 16th, but it was actually August 16th. So it was like 3 months before the slaughter, right? And it wasn't Sergeant Blaker. Apparently it was Casey Green. So that viewer was accurate, and I really appreciate, anybody that thinks I'm making a mistake, please jump in. I'm not going to be offended. Whether I'm making the mistake or not, I'm not going to be offended. So that was super helpful. And that was what got me going on this whole thing, where I came across the 47-page document and had to read through it. So Corporal Casey Green was the one who said, no stairs to the balcony, right? So they had their body cams, Rosie and Casey, and they went to 1127, which is where Jack D lives, across the street. And all the guys were like partying in the driveway, and a couple of them were up on the roof. And then they were like, well, let's go talk to the girls too. And then they lied and said that they knocked at the door and nobody came, and they trespassed around back, but they hadn't knocked on the door. They did like yell to somebody in the window as they were approaching the house, like, somebody come to the door, but they didn't even wait at the door. And then remember that weird guy? So I rewatched that whole thing last night. I'm so glad that I did, because I forgot all about that weird guy that was like looking for his key or his lost puppy or whatever, and he had the backpack on, and he really looked like Dora the Explorer. Remember, we were all tripping on that a couple of years ago. It's like, and they gave him the business card and said, call tomorrow, see if we found it. And it's like, found what? Is it a key? I think we determined it was a key. I don't remember. But it's weird to have some rando walking that close to the front door, unless, of course, it's a house that people stop by to score, right? Maybe. Just an opinion. So, yeah, I don't think that Bethany and Dylan were worried about getting unalived, because if they were, they would have called 911 and said, come help save us right away. I think that they were worried about getting caught, and then they had the 9 hours to clean up, and then they summoned their friends, and then eventually the friends finally summoned 911. There was a bit of a delay in summoning the 911 over at the Hackman situation last month too. So that's interesting. We'll talk about that more when we get there. That'll be next. But I'm just thinking that Dylan and Bethany weren't scared of being victims. They would have handled it differently. I mean, how terrifying would that be if you thought people were breaking in the house, attacking people? You're not just going to snuggle up for 8 or 9 or more hours. You're going to call 911. You're not just going to call the people that aren't responding. When they don't respond, you're going to get concerned. You might go look for them, or you might summon your friends then and there. So anyway, that whole thing about the guy with no clothes on that Bethany claims she saw, I guess that was a lie. It seems like there were a lot of lies. And were they intentional lies, or was there just so much confusion from the rugs and the alcohol? Because it sounds like people were seriously tripping. Yeah, I've always thought too, Annabise. I've always thought that they were at least part of it. I haven't really necessarily always thought that they might have been assailants, but I'm really wondering now. I don't know if anybody's there with me. That might be a stretch for some, but I don't think it's such a stretch. I really don't. So Corporal Casey Green and Captain Lanier both retired in 2023. So the slaughter happened at the end of 2022. They arrested somebody right in time for New Year's Eve and for the new semester to start, the guy that they still haven't tried or convicted, or well, they've convicted him, but they haven't given him a fair trial yet. They've pretty much almost executed him, but no trial. We don't need to waste time on that. We already know he's guilty, right? I mean, just look at those eyes. He has creepy eyes. I'm not gonna deny that he has creepy eyes, but creepy eyes doesn't necessarily mean that somebody did something that they might not have done. So, the year of 2022, you guys, was the first year that the Moscow PD was in their new facility. So, they had like a brand new government headquarter police department office, and it was extremely expensive, and they were having some major funding issues. So much so that they had to have the community pass an extra bond to help pay for the building that was already built. And they were also unable to fill 2 positions that needed to be filled because they had to cut some costs to pay for this super expensive building. So they even had candidates ready to go through their system, but they couldn't let them go through the system. And so their system, it sounds like they hire people that aren't police officers and then send them through a 14-week police officer standards of training program. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, that's the kind of thing that, how do I say, the kind of thing that a kind of rookie police department does. Hiring people straight out of the academy, not that many departments will do that. That's sort of like down the feeding chain or down the ladder. So then departments that hire people that aren't police officers and then train them up. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a certain type of police department that does that. It's kind of like not, let's just, you know, speak out of pocket, tongue in cheek, kind of like not a real police department. So this is just a crazy conspiracy theory idea that I had, is that maybe Moscow PD was trying to prove that they weren't just a bunch of babysitters for loud college kids, and that they were trying to prove to the community that they needed all this extra money to pay for the building. So they created a major crime to make themselves look like the heroes. And we know that gaslighters do that. Gaslighters will create a bunch of chaos, a bunch of danger, and they'll tell their victim, you know, you need me to protect you from the evil out there, when they're the evil out there. So it's just an idea. I'm thinking maybe they created this heinous crime to make themselves look like a real police department. Sergeant Schultz, and I know nothing on this in Kylie's case except that I am confused. Sergeant Schultz. You know nothing on the Idaho 4. It's just, you know that 4 people were slaughtered, and that they are trying to pin it on Brian Koberger, who looks less and less like a viable suspect, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a couple other content creators. But for the most part, like, all the mainstream media is just hopping on this bandwagon that he did it. And they know he did it because, you know, look at his eyes. And, you know, a strand of his DNA was in the back of the button snap on the sheath, which doesn't make sense. That nobody's going to clean the sheath and then plant it there unless they're planting it there. It was planted. It was planted by somebody, whether it was planted by him with his own DNA on it or planted by somebody else with his DNA on it, basically, is the question. If his DNA was even on it. The first DNA lab said there's nothing here. And then they sent it on to the DNA lab in Texas. And then, you know, it was the ISP, the Idaho State Highway Patrol Trooper Toulson, that had taken the sheath into custody when it was a Moscow PD case. And there was all kinds of officers from all different types of persuasions there. And it's not normal for a trooper to take something into evidence, especially when that specific trooper is already on a Brady Giglio list and under investigation for corruption. One sec. Before your time, Sergeant Schultz from TV, Hogan's Heroes. Yeah, that is slightly before my time. If you said Sergeant Joe Friday, I'm with you 100%. And then the sample was doubled. Right. There is a way that could be done, I think, that they can proliferate or populate. I think it's proliferate, that they can take a sample and they can make it bigger. But I don't know. I'm not a scientist like that. Listening while driving. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. One sec. Still caffeinating, even though it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Just trying to make sure the brain keeps going. I would hate to just like poop out and crash and fall asleep right on camera. That would be awful. I know a content creator who did that, but it was late at night. And you guys might remember who that was too. We won't name names, but he was fine. People got worried. So Captain Lanier retired. Corporal Casey Green retired. So the corporal that was with that department, and I think that he might have only worked with that department, Casey Green, for 23 years. I don't know. I don't know how long. That was 2023 is what I meant. So Casey Green never worked anywhere else, according to that 47-page summary of what happened in 2023. So they kind of summarize his career. So I think he even went to the University of Idaho, I'm pretty sure. And then he like interned with them. Something I found very creepy is that, you know, it's all white dudes, of course, in the police department. Every single one of them, like it's like a cookie cutter. You can barely tell one from the other. All of them. But then they have a cadets program that I'm thinking is like an explorer program. So it's college students that have an interest in law enforcement. And there's 10 of them. And guess how many are hot chicks? Want to take a guess? Not 10 out of 10, but 7 out of 10 are females. And none of them looked not good looking, in my opinion. They're all college chicks. 7 out of 10 of the cadets were chicks. So cadets are sort of like interns. And we know that sometimes officers bust a move with their explorers. That's what happened with Sheriff Wayne Wu over in Placer County before Kylie's time. And then that's what happened with Sandra Birchmore in outside of Boston, Canton, with that dirtbag Matt Farwell. And I don't know when his trial starts. You know, she was preggers. He red rummed her. He got away with it for like a year or more, setting it up to look like a suicide. Sorry, self-unaliving. And then her family fought, and they reopened the case. And yeah, they put him on leave. They arrested him. It hasn't gone to trial yet that I know of, but they got the coroner's report rewritten. I think they got it changed to homicide before his arrest, because you kind of have to do that. You can't arrest somebody for something that is on paper a self-unaliving. So her family fought hard for her, which he probably didn't think that they would, because she was kind of orphaned. So good for them that they did. And I'm still concerned about Betsy Hackman not really having family, because she was an only child apparently and didn't have kids. And I don't think her parents are still living. But so we're almost there to get to that. So Mallory and Payne, I think, wait a second. Blaker, let me go back for a minute. Blaker was promoted to captain in 2023. He had been a sergeant. And so he's also a commander of the services division. And then Brett Payne won Officer of the Year for his stellar performance in this big giant slaughter case. And he got some advanced certification in, what was that? March. Yeah, I think March of 2023. And same with Rosendale. Rosie got some certification, advanced certification in February of 2023. But didn't Rosendale resign? I don't know. Fry was also in charge of the rug court. I thought that was interesting. And in this 47-page summary of the Moscow Police Department's year in review of 2023, they talk about how low the crime rate is in Moscow, which, yeah, if your crime rate's so low, why do you need all that money for a new police department? Oh, right. There would be all of these red rooms if the police weren't out there fighting so hard for everyone to put down the weapon, right? Okay, so the law enforcement, they have little coffee talk hours with the people from Greek life. There's a nice little photograph of a couple of stud muffins. I mean, police officers with a hot little sorority chick. I mean, Greek life representative in that 47 pages. I'll put a link to the 47 pages in the description in case you want to thumb through it. But like I said, it's pretty boring. It was just fascinating to see. Oh, this, I didn't get a chance to look this up. If anybody knows anything or wants to look it up, I'll get back to it soon, like over the weekend. There was a monumental gas outage in November of 2022, you guys. Palouse and LC Valley, which I think is that whole area. Let me just Google that real quick. The monumental gas outage, because it made me remember how the whole internet went dark the night of the Red Rum. Remember? I had forgotten all about that craziness. So let me look this up real quick and then we'll move on to Hackman. Let's see. Monumental gas outage in November of 2022. I'm just wondering if it was before, during, or after the Red Rums. A gas outage. And this is a place that is really, really cold. It's weird. Gas outage. Palouse and LC Valley. I'm just typing that whole thing. And LC Valley. I want to know the date. Wait a second. November 8th. No, it says 2023. 1 year later. Huh. Was it 2023 or 2022 that it happened? I think it was 2023. Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. Okay. I'm glad that I found that out because I was thinking from the way it was written in the year in review, but that makes sense since the review was of 2023. But so much of the review, of course, was about the slaughter because it was still unsolved. In my opinion, it's unsolved. Maybe in their opinion, they solved it right by the end of the year, right in time for the school year to get going, for all the students to come back and feel safe. So let's see. So Hackman was discovered by this guy named Jesse Kessler, who was a 52-year-old handyman who had worked with the couple for 16 years. In his own words, he was in constant contact with them. So he hadn't heard from them in weeks, and he'd been emailing Betsy and not getting a response. So he was getting worried. He said he thought that they were maybe angry with him for like taking jobs with other people or something, but he went over there to check on them. And, because I was confused, like, was it a delivery person? Was it a maintenance person? Because I'd heard both stories. So I buckled down and I really dug into that. So that's his name, Jesse Kessler, 52 years old. Their handyman for 16 years. He was considered a staff member. So, which brings me to another one of my concepts is that they had a staff, because any freaking multimillionaire couple like that with that much property and that much acreage, that many toilets to scrub, they're going to have a staff. That's just the way it is. They're going to have housekeepers. They're going to have maintenance people like this guy. They're going to have outdoor maintenance, groundskeepers. A lot of times they have live-in. And so that was another thing that I was looking for, if there's other buildings where people might live on the property. And a lot of people don't know that in the O.J. Simpson case, that there were actually two pool houses. One, we all know, housed Cato Kalin, and the other one housed Arnell Simpson, who is O.J. Simpson's oldest daughter. So she was barely ever mentioned in the whole trial, the O.J. Simpson trial back there in the 90s, but she was home that night, just like Cato was home that night. And she lived right next to the swimming pool that her baby sister had passed away in when she was a kid. So O.J. Simpson had a daughter that was about 2 when she unalived in that very same swimming pool. And Arnell was there, and so was the son. And that's when OJ was cheating with the teenager, and he was married to his first wife, and then he left her, married Nicole. We all know the rest of the story. Anyway, 2 pool houses, only one is ever talked about. So I got to thinking, do they have maybe like a groundskeeper that lives on site? Because if you're going to take good care of your property, it's an endless full-time job for way more than one person. But it's also a good idea to have somebody there for safety. And I still don't believe that they don't have cameras. So the thing that I started to say about this guy, Jesse, is that he says that the door was open to the bathroom from the outside. The door was open to the bathroom from the outside. So it sounds like the bathroom actually had a door that went to the outside, but I'm not 100% clear on that. But he saw her, he saw Betsy. He knew that she was horribly deceased. She was in awful shape. Her remains were starting to mummify. So in a lot of our imaginations, I think that could mean much longer than 2 weeks. If you look up mummification, it seems like it takes a lot longer for that to happen. So I don't know. But there are reports that she was seen shopping on the 11th of February. So there's that. Anyway, so 2 weeks. So she was badly decomposed and mummifying. And no one has mentioned this, but when someone passes away, the body relieves itself. So you not only get, and trigger warning, you not only get all the off gases, you also get the excrement and the elimination combined with the off gases of the decomposing. So it's heinous. I mean, I honestly haven't really had much exposure to that smell outside of science classes with frogs and other small animals that, I couldn't take it. And I've come across that odor once or twice in much more mild forms when people had freshly deceased, because those gases release really quickly and things start to smell funky really quickly. Anyway, a couple of things here. So this guy Jesse saw Betsy on the ground, knew of course that she was beyond gone, and he didn't think to call 911. I don't know where his partner was, this other person that was with him, but he said that he was so scared he spoke with the other person. So I don't know if this was on the phone or the other person was right there, but then the other person, I think, entered the home and found Jean, and then they called 911. And I'm like, wouldn't you just call 911 right away? You find somebody grossly deceased, wouldn't you just dial 911 right away? My first thought, and I spoke with one of my mods to see if it was just me or what they thought, and I didn't tell them what I thought. I was like, what do you think that is? Why would they wait? And my mod was like, well, because they wanted to make sure that he didn't do it and they didn't need to help him cover it up. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So, jumping to conclusions, I will admit. Fred redacted his message. Yeah, it was Rachel Smith. It was Casey Green. It was. I totally looked that up. And weren't you the one who gave me that hot tip a couple of days ago? Let's see. The MPD cadet program began in 2022 and was overseen by Tisdall, one of the officers at Banfield that night. Oh, interesting, Rachel. Look at you Do you live near there, or are you just really, really well versed? Because that's pretty significant information that I've never come across the name of those officers. And I used to study this case like the back of my hand. So congratulations for knowing so much, and thank you for bringing it here and sharing it with us. That's totally awesome. So yeah, it was Casey Green. I rewatched the tape from last night. Last night I rewatched both body cam tapes, and I'll put a link to it in the description for anybody else who wants to look at it again. And it's really interesting. I've looked at those so many times, and I missed the part where Rosie calls him Casey. He refers to him by his first name. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, maybe they're right. And then I did more digging, and yeah, it's Casey Green. And he said, no stairs to the back deck. Interesting. Yes, 7 were chicks, and the guys are suspicious, in my opinion. I am a TV YouTube addict. Unlike you, I have not watched a mainline movie for over 20 years. I don't actually watch much not on YouTube anymore. I do like to sometimes watch my Roku and watch like 2020, 48 Hours, or like the Gabby Petito story, the Watts family horrible sick story. I do like to kick back and watch old school types of mainstream things sometimes, but for the most part, I'm just all over the freaking YouTube. There's just not enough time in the day to get it all consumed, right? I forgot about all that internet outage too. I know. And that was highly suspicious. And we can thank Nerdy Addict for noticing that and then contacting the authorities to let them know that he noticed it. And he also just phrased it as a question, like, well, maybe it was scheduled maintenance. I don't know. I just know that it was down from like 11:30 until 6 a.m. And he wasn't sure how long it was down for, but he knew that somewhere in that time frame it was down. Maybe the whole time, maybe part of the time. But yeah, that was what a coinky dink. I smelled that once, and it was passed away crow in a cave outside of Tucson. I always wondered how a cow got there. I said crow, you said cow. Ew. Ugh, yeah. Because I was thinking crow, so it's just a small animal, and the smell is harsh. But a large animal, ooh. And in the heat, yes, I used to live in Idaho. Awesome, Rachel Smith. Wow. Yeah. Idaho seems like a wild place. It seems like, I don't know, Mayberry, like Stepford Wives. Am I wrong? That's the impression I get. I'm here at the beginning, Jackie Bushable says. Okay, so yeah, why did they wait to call 911 until they found Jean? Why wouldn't they just call right away, seeing her on the ground, and then let the authorities look for Jean? What if he had done this to her and he was ready to do it to anybody else who came in the property? I mean, that's how cops think, right? Or that somebody else had come in, did that to her, maybe did that to Jean, and they were still waiting in the lurch to take care of anybody else that might have stumbled upon the crime scene. But something that I found fascinating, and again, I'll put a link in the description to this article that I read, that I think that the public really ran with this phrase of that because of Gene Hackman's Alzheimer's, it's possible that he didn't even know his wife was deceased. It's possible. And I would agree, it's possible. I don't think it's very likely that he didn't know. So for it to be phrased by the authorities in that nice little delicate way of it's possible, and then for people to just run with it and say, well, he didn't know she was deceased because he had Alzheimer's, really bad, advanced stages. So yeah, it's possible, but I think it's quite probable that he did know. That's my opinion. So I spent my days looking for Michael Vaughn. Oh, I lived in Wilder. I wasn't appreciated. What? Because you're not like cookie cutter Stepford wives, Rachel? I would say I applaud you for putting up with that kind of treatment in Idaho. I don't think I could. I really don't. I'd be ready to like kick some booty. I don't think I'd be much appreciated. Yeah, it's just a really different culture there. It's very old school. It's very white bread. So I have a dog scratching at the door. Should I let them in? I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Rachel Smith says exactly. Well, I'm sorry that you had to put up with that, but I'm glad that you did because you probably had really good reason for wanting to be there, like farming or family or whatever your reason was. I'm sure it was a good one or you would have not wanted to be around it. You're a badass, Rachel. Exactly, Annabise. You took the words right out of my mouth. Like that doctor at that what was it? It was a town hall meeting a couple weeks ago. The doctor that spoke up at the Republican presentation and said women are dying, and she was referring to the Roe versus Wade being overturned, and then the three men physically removed her from the building, and that was horrific, and it was all on videotape. Absolutely horrifying. But that's the kind of thing that you would think would happen there. That's ironic that Santana just put out a song today. Really? I ran into Carlos Santana in a restaurant, but I didn't tell him that I knew him. Did I? I think I did talk to him, actually. I did. I did talk to him. See, I try not to talk to famous people when I run into them just because I don't want to annoy them. I'd like to give them their private time. But I ran into him again later. So first I saw him at the restaurant. I didn't say anything to him, but then I ran into him later and I said, I saw you at the restaurant. So, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I know. I love that song, Supernatural. That's the last song I know of theirs. But Santana played at Woodstock. Like that's where they got their real fame. Like they're like the original gangsta, the OG. Check and make sure I'm right, Jackie Bushable says. Yeah, we can totally do that. Oh my goodness. I posted on my community tab the cutest freaking song in the world of Sarah Cooper lip syncing a song from the 70s. Let me try it, even though I'll do a really bad job. You got a cute way of talking, like a dog hanging on your knee. That song? OMG, Sarah Cooper does this lip syncing to it. That's phenomenal. It's just a 60-second video, and I shared it on my community tab right before I came on live. I was just like, man, she's killing it. It's hilarious. She's so cute. She's just brilliant. She's very talented. Yeah, I know. Who doesn't remember that song? And at first you're thinking, oh no, I don't really want to watch somebody lip sync that stupid song from the 70s, but she kills it. How do you kill a song just lip syncing? She's a really great actress. Like she's really got the facial features and the body movements. She's studied Shakespearean theater, so. And then she studied business. So she worked for Google. She was like corporate for a long time before she said, screw this noise. I just want to be a comedian. And I think she kept her day job in corporate and was doing stand up at like pizza joints and stuff. And then when COVID happened and she did the lip syncing for El Presidente, that's when her career hit the ground running. And then she got her own Netflix special or a series, like a Netflix show. And then she just started a podcast. So I like to watch her podcast. I feel like I know her. I feel like we're friends. Because I have had an interesting interfacing with many people that are in the entertainment industry. So, especially from when I lived in Southern California, it was very common. But even in Seattle, I would run into people. And even in Ohio, I run into people. So, I mean, I ran into Josh Johnson at his performance. But, I had to like throw myself at him and give him a hug just to be really creepy, just to be that mom. Oh, it was funny. It was totally funny. Anyway, I got to talk to him and everything. I wanted to make sure that he remembered me. I wrote down the name of my YouTube channel and asked him to check it out. So we'll see. Oh, and I finally got an email from YouTube that says they're going to pay me. So I should be getting my first payment before the end of the month. And then voila. It's only been 2.5 years. One sec. I'm going to let the dog in. Hey, baby. Come on in. Come on in, Coco. Here, let me take off your cone. Let me take off your cone. Promise you won't lick. Oh, can you come up here and show your beautiful face to people? Coco, come here, baby. No, if you go over there, I can't see if you cheat and lick. You're not allowed to lick, baby. You know better. She's so smart. But yeah, she's quick too. Yay, finally. Oh, the dog. She's doing so well. So where she had the radiation on her rear end, it got infected and it got really nasty, and it's healing up, and maybe another week or even less, and then we should be able to take the cone off, and then we're just going to keep praying the cancer away and hope that it doesn't come back. So if it does, that's going to be rough, especially, I mean, I don't like to think about the money, but we have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on the dog. So it's nice that YouTube says they're going to start paying me. I'm not going to believe it until until the money's in the account. But thank you, Annabees. Yeah, YouTube, but yes, the dog too. I know I've been really patient with it because in a way I've loved that I haven't made money with this, because a lot of people like to criticize YouTubers like, oh, you're just cashing in on people's tragedies. And it's like, no, that's hopefully not what people are doing. I'm sure that happens, but that's not what the channels that I watch, I don't think, are setting out to do. And, I mean, it's just nice for me to know that the way I've kind of trained myself up for the last 30 some months is just in the interest of doing this as therapy for myself, really like an art therapy. And, if I make money, great, because it is expensive with some of the equipment, and if I can make an income off of it, then I can focus more of my time and effort into it too, because, I do a lot, but, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting because there's been many times where they've said they were going to pay me, and then they're like, nope, we found another reason not to. So we'll see. I went to the Social Security office and got a new Social Security card with my hyphenated married name on it, which I've never needed it, but that's what they said I needed to do in order to get paid. So I was like, all right, well, I should have done it a long time ago anyway. I just was never in a position that it was necessary. So who wants to go hang out at the Social Security office? I mean, they're like that cartoon in Zootopia with the sloths where they're like, oh, I can't help you. Like they literally acted like they couldn't. Tell it to Elle. I never catch your lives anymore, but I love seeing this, and that your doggy is okay, and that you're going to be making money too. Woo-hoo. It's not a lot, but every bit helps. And it's really just the thought that counts. Like, because what they do is like they let it rack up and then they freeze my account. So they don't let it keep racking up. So it's been frozen Like a couple years ago, it froze up after the first couple hundred, and then it froze up again after the next couple hundred. So right now it's really only like $400, but $400 is $400. It's much better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, is how I like to say. And then we'll just see how it goes, because if it's generating an income, then I'll probably get more motivated to go like across different platforms just to try to get more viewers, because that's not been a concern of mine. I actually like having less is more. It's less pressure. It's more personal. I like the smaller channels. Trump will pay me on the frozen money, right? Okay, so now we're going to have to talk about that. I was trying to avoid it, Fred. I'm just kidding. I've followed you since the beginning, and I just love you. Tell it to Elle. You are so sweet. I think your name is familiar. It's just been a while. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I started. I couldn't believe that I started. It was only with the absolute mentoring, support, and pressure from a couple of content creators that I really respect, and I'll give them a plug. Paula Plunder and Kelly from Watts the Obsession. They were both really sweet and really encouraging, and they answered every question that I had and just pushed me to do it. And I didn't want to. And I was like, no, I don't have anything to say. And they were like, yes, you do. I was like, how do you know? And they're just like, trust me. And I'm like, all right, I'll trust you. So it's nice that people were interested in what I had to say, because I had a lot of viewers early on quickly, and I was really shocked by that. But my whole angle was, I felt like there were things in that Kylie Rodney case that nobody was saying that needed to be said. And a lot of that was just the corruption with the local law enforcement. And that's kind of been my angle with justice, is corruption. And then I was trying to keep politics out of it, but then a few months ago I just felt like the politics and the true crime had a head-on collision, and now I feel like our political climate is just criminal. I just feel like what's going on in Washington D.C. is just crime after crime after crime. Like, who in the hell sells Teslers on the front lawn of the damn White House and doesn't even know how to drive computer? I mean, come on. This stuff is crazy. You can't make it up. And I'm just like, when is it going to stop? And is Pipi our real presidente? Is he really in charge? Because it certainly seems like he's the puppet master for the big E and the little T. And he's a very soulless, heartless, frightening fascist. So he has had our little T dude on his payroll for decades. He bailed out that company when it was going bankrupt, and none of the American banks would put a dime into that company. And Russia did, to the tune of about 100 million. So there's a lot of debt there. There's a lot of debt there. And it's been really hopeful. I try not to get my hopes up too high, but it's been really hopeful watching like the Tesla stock crash. I don't think anybody's flying to Mars ever. Let me just say that. I looked it up in my last live. It's like 150 million miles away. I just don't think that's realistic. I think that's like a 4-year-old thinking like, yeah, I'm going to fly to Mars. And then yesterday he was like trying to give away tickets or something, have people win tickets to fly to Mars if and when he ever changes that. So, I was living in Seattle. I started to talk about this a couple videos ago. I was living in Seattle when the Segway was invented. And the man who invented the Segway, I forget his name, I'm sure we could Google it, he had been getting a lot of investors to invest piles and piles and piles of cash for years. And he was always like, it's almost ready, but you can't see it till it's finished. But I'm going to need some more money in the meantime. And then the investors would say, well, we need to know what we're investing in. And he'd say, well, it's this form of transportation that you've never even dreamed of that's going to change the way humans move through space and time to get from point A to point B. And he made it sound like it was upward too, like almost like an elevator going up into the Mars. 150 million mile long elevator or golden escalator. How about that? But then finally he was under a lot of pressure and people were like, we've had it. You need to show us your end product by blankety blank date. And that's when the Segway was born. That's how Segway came around. And I just kind of feel like we're going to have a repeat of that with the Big E and his talk of Martian society. I mean, we can do anything there that we could do it here, and here we're already here. It's like bloom where you're planted. Like he's on rugs. He's high as a kite. But thank you, Tell It to Ellie. That is so sweet. I used to watch Soft White Underbelly. He just passed away. I watched a video where he was interviewing a trans homeless person. He said he made $1,000 on one video. I started thinking he was exploiting. Huh. I've never heard of Soft White Underbelly. But yeah, I mean, people don't really talk about how much money they can make on YouTube. And it's sort of like everything else. Like the people at the top are making massive bucks. Like, I don't know Christina Randall, but I know you can look it up too, that, you know, just one video of hers and she'll make thousands upon thousands of dollars because her channel is so big and she has so many viewers, and it doesn't really matter what it is, anything. And so once you get to that level, I think sometimes people have a tendency to say what they think people want to hear rather than what they feel like needs to be said. And it's sad as an artist, as a content creator, it's sad if you don't know what it is you want to say and you're just trying to guess what other people want to hear, because that's not art. That's just selling out. And I'm not saying that Christina Randall has sold out. In some ways, I think she's great, but in some ways, I do have that as a question. Like, you know, any of these channels when they get really big. A better example might be Bailey Syrian. I love the Monday Red Rum makeup person. She doesn't seem like she's sold out to me, as big as she is. And I think that's phenomenal. You know, people that can just be themselves, be passionate about whatever story they're telling or opinion they're expressing, and just, you know, like not reading a script, not reading off of a teleprompter. There's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you were being true to yourself. And I mean, it's an art form. Even if you work for like CNN and you're a newscaster, in a sense, it's an art form. And if you're just a talking head and you're going to like spread around whatever the teleprompter says without knowing if it's true and accurate and without checking in with how you feel about it, I think that's gross, because what we do on Earth matters. And I think we all need to feel connected to ourselves and connected to each other. And I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but that happens. So let me keep up with you guys. Let's see. And so, yeah, $1,000 in a video. And yeah, you can make way more than that in a video if it goes viral. Like if say News Nation plays your video or something, and then you get a whole bunch more subs. And, you know, News Nation is a terrible one. I don't like them at all. Sorry, not sorry. Let's see. I'm a small creator too. Oh, cool. Tell It to L. Is that your channel? Can you put it in the chat, and then Anna Bees can make it a hyperlink so people can check you out? Is it called Tell It to L? I like being somewhat small, too many cray-crays, LOL. But I've always appreciated your channel. Glad to see you are here still. I'm so glad to be here still. Every once in a while, I contemplate, like, is this still the direction I want to go? Especially when it's not bringing in any revenue at all. And it's like, yeah, I really enjoy it. it's a lot of work and I love it. And I really love it because of you guys. This is the way I like to do my presenting, is to have it live, to have it be totally spontaneous. I don't know who's going to come in. I don't know what you guys are going to say. I do have to be careful with trolls because it's just a waste of all of our time and energy. Same with me. Idaho. Oh, you're from Idaho? Amen, Justice. Love saves lives. Couldn't have said it better. Oh, see, I'm a few minutes behind, like 8 minutes behind. People over politics in my millennial brain, most of them need to go. Bring in people who are actually lovers of people and our country. Right. And I, my whole life, I've tried to not talk about religion and not talk about politics because it's just rude. It's like, don't try to push your religion or politics on me, and I won't try to push my religion or politics on you. And it's nice to have diversity and to be able to have differences and have discussions. But this situation that we're in is so Hitler-esque, and it's so frightening, and it's such a division, and there's so much hate, and it's so sexist, it's so racist, it's so intolerant, and it's so frightening. And the big E is like evil. And then that freaking Caroline with a K, these people are just liars. They will just lie right to your face. And little D, and then the guy over there on the other side of the planet, I call him PP just because, I don't want to say their names. I don't want it to be in the algorithm. And yeah, I think PP is controlling so much of our country. Let's see, what else did I miss? So yeah, I just started talking about politics like probably right before the election, like maybe the day before the election, right? I didn't even make videos for a week or two. It was like the longest I'd gone without making a video in the 2.5 years, because I didn't want to talk about politics, but I have to be honest with my viewers and talk about what's heavy on my heart or what's weighing on my head. And so I just didn't create because I didn't want to go there. And then I was like, I'm just going to go there. It'll be okay. And it was the day before the election, so we didn't know how it was going to turn out. And then it was a disaster, in my opinion. And I really believe that it was hijacked. I don't believe that there's that many people in our country that voted that way. I know for a fact that there are people that voted that way, but I think that it was a stolen election big time. And I won't get into it. Because whether it was or wasn't is almost irrelevant. That's what I came to pretty quickly, because I'm like, even if it was, who's going to prove it and who's going to do something about it, and how's it going to be undone, right? I mean, it's almost immaterial, but it's not. Everything matters. Everything matters. And that's the problem with the gaslighting, is you just get so overwhelmed, then you start to think nothing matters. Oh, it doesn't matter. All the federal employees lost their jobs. It doesn't matter. No, they're all getting them back. This is brand new news in the last 24 hours. Maybe not all, but maybe almost all are getting them back, or at least they've been ordered to. And so if they don't, then people will be in contempt of court, and then there's a whole process there. Let's see. So thanks for all of that. People over politics. I read that one. Did I highlight that one? Let me highlight it and then catch up. Fred, maybe Jazz's money was in frozen shock phase. Thank you for that, Anna. That's perfect. It was absolutely in frozen shock phase. Yes, but now it's going to multiply, and I'm going to put like a tariff on it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tariff my channel. Because, yeah, I don't know what a tariff is, but it'll make us all extremely rich. The little T says so. It'll make us all so rich we won't know what to do with all the monies. Maybe we'll do computer. Drive computer? I don't know. Tesla's drive computer. So, LOL, our money better not be going to Mars with them. Ha ha ha. See, I think that big E guy will like sell everybody tickets to Mars for like $250,000. Like, you want to go to Mars? Come on, we'll move there. And he'll take all your money, and then you'll burn up in the flight, and he'll be like, ha ha ha, I got your money, and you not alive no more. But who knows? I mean, what are they doing with all those people that they have in Guantanamo Bay? And why are they all guys? Why do they just take the men to Guantanamo Bay? Are they going to try to turn them into soldiers or something? I don't know. Just a thought. Let's see. I am scared to fly on a plane. Ha ha ha. Let alone going to Mars. I know I've never liked flying, and the older I get, the less I like it. And then especially when the planes keep falling out of the sky on fire, like. And I think a helicopter just crashed in Ohio like this morning. I haven't even had a chance to look it up. I know there was like an airplane on fire. Was that in Chicago like yesterday? Nobody passed away, but there were some minor injuries, I think. Can't remember. No, it was in Colorado, wasn't it? It took off from maybe like Colorado Springs and then maybe landed in Denver or something. I can't keep up. I'm sick of it. I've had it. That's a good channel. Do you guys know that channel? I've had it. It's hilarious. I love it. I find it hard to make, but I actually don't put forth the effort, I guess, that I could, but I'm a truth seeker. Christina Randall lost me because of her last reporting on Idaho. I know. Me too. Like, that's, I've always stood by her. I know a lot of people criticize her, and, she's super pretty, and yeah, she's been to prison, and I think that just makes her smarter. Like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And she knows how to play it up and use her cleavage to get more viewers and more likes and more subs. And, to each their own. Like, I'm fine with all that. Not my thing, but, just let other people live and let live, right? But yeah, the last reporting of Idaho killed me. And I made some comments in her comment section, but I mean, I doubt she ever would have a chance to read them. And I'm not going to take the time to email her because she probably doesn't care. She's making giant boatloads of cash, and that's probably all she cares about. So yeah, I just had to stop watching it. Hence, you can't have hired help for your channel, in my opinion. Well, it would make it hard. I think some channels do it all right, like Luke Beasley, Jack Coachella. I don't know if Hal Sparks has somebody helping him. I don't think Sarah Cooper has anybody helping her, but her channel just started. But you have to have a like-minded person, and then you have to work well together, because it's tough to work with people. It's tough to work with yourself. And when you're just working with yourself, you can I guess you have more control over it. It's kind of like more of a wild card when you're working with other people, and life happens too. And so, you got to allow for that as well. And you're going to have differences of opinion, like the Midas Touch channel. That's a conglomerate. 3 brothers started it. They have a lot of people that contribute. And then one of their contributors, Jessica Denson, she wanted to share with the world what she learned about the 14th Amendment, which exempted somebody who's been charged as an insurrectionist, that they're not allowed to be part of our government, let alone in the leadership position. And so she was just like hell-bent on that. I think it was Amendment 14, maybe it was Amendment 12, it was Section C. It was just like on and on and on. And she's right. And she was a Trump aide, and she sued Trump, and she won. And what she sued him for was making her sign an illegal non-disclosure agreement. So her lawsuit against him helped everybody that he's ever made sign an illegal non-disclosure agreement, which is pretty much everybody that works for him. And anyway, the Midas Touch didn't want her to discuss that in her section, her hour or however long she had once a week. And so they had creative differences, and she made her own channel. And I lost some respect for Midas Touch, because it's like, why wouldn't you allow that? Even if you don't support the idea, it's still true and accurate. It is 100% true and accurate. She's not so much the one saying that the election was hijacked. There's other people that she's talked to who've studied what they call election hygiene, who can prove that it's been hijacked. And some of that is with the numbers, like the numbers, the math ain't mathin'. So it's a fact as far as some of these experts are concerned. But anyway, it was sad that Jessica Denson had to go away from Midas Touch, because Midas Touch is now like one of the biggest YouTube channels for news, for politics. It's bigger than, what's his name, Joe Rogan. So good for them. But yeah, she's very critical of them. I still watch them sometimes, but I really agree with her. Like, I don't like their approach. Like, their approach is just to kind of like make fun of the government. Like, it ain't that productive, in my opinion. So that's not my favorite. but I'm glad that they're doing what they do, and I'm glad that they've gotten so big, and I'm glad that they have a big audience. So, like I said, to each their own. But I am still trying to catch up. Bailey is awesome. Bailey Syrian. I know I don't like makeup, so it's hilarious that I love watching her do her makeup and tell her stories. But the reason I love it is because she's just so much herself, unless that's like a fake character that she's created. But I can't imagine that it is, because it's hard to, that's a lot of work. And then to be consistent, yeah, it's impossible. That's why when people have personality disorders, you can figure out that they have a personality disorder, because eventually they can't keep up the act. And then you see the cracks in the veneer, and then it's really scary. So yeah, I think that the people in the positions of power right now have sociopathic and narcissistic personality disorders. And yeah, they're falling apart. They are freaking falling apart, because it's not real. They're not being themselves. They're not being authentic. They're not being human. And they're not robots. They think they are. It's like, go ahead and good luck with that. Scary when you're big creators. If you go against the grain, the families are, at least in Idaho, taking people down and ready to sue some, sadly. Absolutely. But if you're a big creator, that kind of goes with the territory, and then you just have to know your stuff and have good lawyers and have money for the lawyers. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I know, like, I made a comment in Frankie Ruzik's community post yesterday. I don't want to be mean to Shanann's brother or her family, but I also don't understand. And that's what I said. I tried to say it as nicely as possible. I don't understand why they don't want to get complete justice for Shanann and Cece and Bella and Nico. Like, how can they just say, oh, okay, that's good enough, Chris is in prison? Like, well, what about the freaking DA that lied to everybody and ceased investigating? And what about the girlfriend that lied to the authorities and was probably the one who came up with the idea and was probably hands-on, in my opinion? And yeah, the Ruzick family has sued Armchair Detective. I'm sure they've sued other people too. And, Armchair Detective went a little heavy with it. I'll admit that. But I also think that he was authentically trying to find truth. I don't think he was exploiting for the sake of exploiting. I think he was, and it's just so hard. It's just so hard. It's like, these people have already been through the most disgusting tragedy in the world. So you don't want to pile onto that at all. And yeah, if they come to you and say, you're killing me, you're breaking my heart all over again, maybe just give it a rest and apologize. I mean, a little goes a long way, right? Humanity. Yes, Jazz and L, humanity matters. I'd love to go speak on Nancy Grace, LOL. I'd love to tell her or News Nation how they need to stop, LOL. And yes, this is my channel. Okay, cool. if you can put the link and then Anna can make it a hyperlink and then people can just go right to it, but also they can figure out how to get there. But if you want to. But yeah, I used to really like Nancy Grace. And then I thought, what is it with this Idaho 4 case that she's gone the same thing as Christina Randall? She's gone off the deep end. She's got the cart way ahead of the horse. And I know that she had a fiance that was red rummed when she was in college. And so I thought, well, maybe it was with a sharp edged object. Maybe it's just really triggering for her. So I looked into it and was not with a sharp edged object. It was with a pew pew, but she was in college. I think she was 19 and he might have been 23. I don't know if he was in college, but that does make more sense to me of why she's so triggered by Idaho. Because some of these kids are the same age, like Bethany and Dylan were the same age as she was when that happened to her. And yeah, News Nation is the worst. I like Brian Enton on News Nation still. And sometimes I like is it Andrew Como? But Ashley Banfield's the worst. And yeah. And Nancy Grace is just a huge disappointment when she's talking smack. Like, she's better than that. Like, she is about justice as far as I'm concerned. I've been following her career for like 35 years. And I've always respected her until recently with that crap. Let's see. Oh, I'm missing so much. Oh, good. There's the thing. Okay, I'm like 15 minutes behind. So let me do some speed reading. Thanks for all the great comments, you guys. Sure is, exactly. And I love seeing you still here. No, I'm in Cali. I'd be scared in Idaho. Well, what about Cali with all those dang fires and floods? And are you northern or southern? It's above and beyond right now, and being half black and half white is scary. I am so sorry. I was just talking today with a friend of mine, letting them know that I lived in New Mexico briefly when I was a kid, and being white in Santa Fe, where nobody was white, I kind of know a little bit about what that's like. It's really uncomfortable, to say the least. So I'm so sorry. But especially now with this, like, concentration camp kind of crap. Annabise, thank you for the link. Caroline, ha ha ha. So Caroline probably has, what do they call it? Like a top piece on her hair? A topper. They call them toppers. I didn't know this. But there's this awesome makeup guy called And Mayhem Ensued, another makeup guy. There's 3 makeup people that I watch on YouTube now that I love. And Mayhem Ensued does the makeup of right-wing figures. And he's really good at it. And he's hilarious because he looks like he's just making a mess on his face with like paste and putty. And then at the end, he looks just like him. But he's the one who gave me a tip that Caroline with a K probably is wearing a topper, which is why she's always really uptight about her hair. She doesn't want to touch it. It makes sense. And now that he said that, I feel like I can see that it is a topper. And yeah, she's horrible. She's ugly on the inside. It makes her ugly on the outside. She's married to somebody 32 years older than her. She had premarital sex because she had the baby in like June or July, and they got married the previous December. And I believe the baby was full term. So, screw her and all of her holier than thou goody two shoes crap. And she just lies. And she's either too stupid to know the truth, or she thinks everyone else is too stupid. And she yells at people, and she's just rude and obnoxious. I didn't think I could dislike anybody as much as I dislike the big E and the little T, but it's a 3-way tie with them, I think. I don't think I'm the only one either. She's just rancid. She is rancid. So yeah, the thing with Hackman, I didn't really finish that. So his wife was at least 30 years younger than him, and they started living together before he was divorced from his first wife. So it is kind of scandalous. And I don't know if they were living in the same house or if they were living right next door to each other. And so when they talk about her being in the bathroom and him being in the mud room, they might even be leaving out the part that it was in two separate structures. I don't know. I'm curious though, because there's at least two houses on the property, I think. So where was I? I'm a survivor of SA. I'm so sorry, my dear, and a brutal attack. And I decided to speak slightly on it at election time because I was a woman who ended up with a child, lost the baby, not my choice. I'm so sorry, but it should be a woman's choice. Wow. And then to have this convicted Rex offender be in that position of El Presidente is totally disgusting too, whether you've been assaulted or not. But I would think especially for people that have been assaulted. And I'm just so sorry. And thanks for sharing that. That's really, really unfortunate. And I respect you a great deal for being able to share it appropriately in a public forum like this. Because yeah, that's big. It's really big. So sorry that happened to you. Anna B says, right. And the veterans, like, what the heck? They need the most love. Right. The trauma, the PTSD, and yeah, and putting their lives on the line for our country and then being disregarded. It's kind of like Vietnam all over again, which is not cool, not okay. Thank you, Anna Bees. I am here to hopefully help a person or two. And oh my goodness, another crash. The helicopter or something else? Because yeah, that was like 16 minutes ago. Let's see. That is very noble of you. Friendly Snake. Yikes. I don't know about that name. I think I saw you before and you weren't that friendly. And that's just a freaky handle name. So I don't know. I don't want no friendly snakes around because a snake is a snake. It reminds me of this joke about sharks and taking your pet sharks to the shark park and then asking people, like, is your shark nice? My shark is nice. Maybe your shark wants to play with my shark. And it's like, yeah, we all have nice sharks, right? And friendly snakes. It's like a friendly scorpion. I mean, I think my channel probably like yours grows due to you, Heart, and I believe people really like you and your work, content, etc. It's hard to have someone else be you. You are so sweet. It's so nice to say that. And, you know, when people don't like my channel, it's like I'm okay with people not liking my channel. Like, I don't expect everybody to like it. Especially because, you know, I'm going to shoot from the hip. I'm going to speak my mind and speak my heart. And sometimes I'll make mistakes, but I can cop to it when I make a mistake and apologize. Like the other day, I took somebody out of the chat because I thought they were effing with me, but then they weren't. And so I let them back in, but then they did. It's just like, okay, you know, and I apologize profusely, but yeah, I just don't have time for it. But yeah, at first I did make a mistake. I didn't understand what they were saying. And I was like, nope, don't want it. Oh, Titanic. Let's see. Where are we at? Where are we at? Right there, I think, right? Yeah. I can't believe how much they are doing that to veterans and no one is speaking out about it. I know. And screw Chuck Schumer, man. He's a freaking dirtbag and a half. Has he been paid off or something? Is he a pee-pee puppet too? They've been mistreated for decades, Anna Bees. It is so sad. Agreed. Didn't know that about Midas Touch channel. I just started with the election watching them. Yeah, me too. And, you know, I liked them so much at first. And Jessica Denson was on their channel when I first discovered her. And she was like my favorite person on their channel. There's a couple that I really like, but her by far and away was my favorite. And then, they parted ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, yeah, that's what happens, creative differences. But um, they can't admit that they were wrong, and they were freaking wrong AF, and it's ridiculous. And it's so much harder. Let me say this, tell it to Ellie. It's so much harder for us chicks out here, just like in the real world. It's a man's world. And I learned real quick that the content creators on YouTube that are dudes tend to be much more successful. Like, people want to hear what dudes have to say. They don't necessarily want to hear what chicks have to say because, we're just hilarious, hysterical, wandering uteruses, right? Not. That's why I love that channel. I've had it because it's a couple of women that you would think would be like Chatty Cathy's, but they are sharp. They're kind of like Jessica Denson, and they just tell it like it is. Chris Norland is one of my current favorites. Chris Norland is awesome, but I'm still trying to catch up, so let me do that. He's really smart. He went to school with Elon, and he hates him. He didn't hang out with him. He hates him, but he knows what's up. Agree, didn't know that about Midas Touch. Okay, it's really said. Hence, I like being small and saying what I believe about Idaho, LOL, because no one else is talking about certain Titanic aspects. Can't sue a broke girl, LOL. Yeah, there's certain Titanic aspects of a lot of these things, and same with Kylie Rodney, and same with Trinity Backus, and many others I'm sure that I'm failing to mention. But even like talking about Gene Hackman and this current mystery of how that happened, and maybe it is what they say, maybe they both just fell down and here we are, right? The pills that were surrounding Betsy were her thyroid medication. So to me that seems very staged, and like some crackhead didn't know the difference between thyroid medication and something dangerous or whatever. I don't know, as if she were overdosing, because people were speculating at first that, oh, he probably passed away and then she overreacted and overdosed because she was freaking out. And it's like, he probably passed away because he's 95 and he had a heart condition and Alzheimer's, and she shouldn't have passed away. And sure, if she really had exposure to the, what is it called? The Havana virus, the rat poop virus. It's like Hana virus. I'm not saying it right. Anyway, sure, she might have had that, but why would they test for it? And thank you to the person in my chat, was it Rachel Smith the other day, who said, why would they test for that right away? And it's like, yeah, they wouldn't, would they? But what really tipped me off about it being a cover-up was them saying so definitively that this is what happened and this is how they passed away, when you can't really determine that until you have the full autopsy report. And even when they're like pushed through really quickly, it still takes like a month. And it's just ridiculous. And they can state that this is the preliminary findings of what we think happened, but we won't know conclusively until the full report is finalized. But they didn't present it like that. They were just like, this is what it is. We already know. We already did all the tests. We're good. It's done. And that makes you think they're hiding something. And yeah, he had a really bad temper. He was also, it was Billy Darling, I think yesterday, who said that he had some enemies, which I didn't know. And so I looked it up, and apparently Nixon was one of his enemies. And this is kind of random, but it was recently that the little T was talking about Nixon. And he was talking about how he was a really great person and that he was just so misunderstood. And it's just like, dear Lord. Yeah, our friends are our enemies and our enemies are our friends, and none of us know which way is up. Like, thank you for the gaslighting. But no, Nixon is like the worst. But Gene Hackman, Nixon hated him. Nixon had him on a blacklist, which Gene was very proud to be on that blacklist. And then you just got to like go with a conspiracy theory and wonder about the timing. Like, So the guy who was on Nixon's shit list and little T loves Nixon, and then that guy goes down, and so does his young wife. I don't know. But Betsy was born in Hawaii. She went to California, Southern California, USC, right? Isn't that what I said yesterday? I think it's in my notes. And then she was a cheerleader for a professional soccer team in Southern California, I think the Aztecs. And then she was a production assistant on a game show called Card Sharks, I think. Are they friendly card sharks? And then she met Gene when she was 23, allegedly, and he would have been 53. And it was years before his divorce. His divorce was finalized, I think, in 86. Betsy and Gene got married in 91, but they'd already been dating for at least 7 years. So it's kind of sketchy. It's kind of sketchy, in my opinion. And she's younger than one of his kids. She's 1 year younger than his oldest kid and 1 year older than his second oldest kid. So his oldest kid is a son who was 24 when Betsy was 23. And then the oldest daughter was 22. And then I think the younger daughter was like 19. But, you know, Gene Hackman would say very explicitly that he didn't leave his wife and kids for a younger woman, but it appears that he did. And people do that. I mean, I'm not throwing shade at him for that, but I am going to throw shade if he's like lying about it. And then I wonder, you know, if somebody's lying about that, then what else are they lying about? Like, was she really even of a legal age when he met her? Like, you know, you look at B and who I call Daisy, but with a J. She was under 16 when they started screwing. OJ and Nicole Brown Simpson, she was underage when they started their thing. And statutory is a serious crime that never goes away. There's no statute of limitations on a statutory. And it doesn't matter if you marry the person and have their kids. And especially if you unalive them, then it really... Okay, I'm catching up, right? I'm catching up. We need more good people to be sharing goodness with our world. I agree. Thanks so much. I did that already. Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you. So glad. There's her channel. So yeah, let's all check out her channel and see if we dig it and sub up and like and share and all that good stuff. Did it again. Thank you. Thank you, Billy, darling. Yay. It's raining outside now. I'm almost caught up. I'm still 16 minutes behind. I've got to just buckle down. Central California. Okay, check it out. Nancy calls BK a unaliver. I wouldn't think she would be allowed to do that since he hasn't even had a trial yet, and she's a trained freaking lawyer. I know, it's terrible. You know, it makes me think she's getting paid to do that, and I do believe a lot of these YouTubers get paid. Apparently, the little T was offering YouTubers in New York City like $100,000 to make a video putting him in a good light. Like they were going door to door. I heard. I don't know that it's true, but that was the word on the streets of YouTube. Let's see. I don't know how they sleep at night exactly. 32 1 321. Tell it to L. I ain't saying she a gold digger, LOL. And yeah, she is rude. I sing to her and make up words like, oh, Caroline song. That's hilarious. Yeah, the Caroline with a K is what gets me. And just her attitude. She's so snotty. Like she's a jerk. She's a little freaking pig. And she looks like Miss Piggy. But that's kind of insulting to Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy's cute. Wonder if the tunnel things are true about the Hackman house. I know. I mean, a lot of this stuff people just go wild with, but who knows? Who freaking knows? I'm working on being comfortable with sharing so I can share it all eventually. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I would love to hear your story. I've shared with my viewers about my father made an attempt on my life when I was 11 years old. So it's nice to be able to share it and share it comfortably and, get on with it. And it's good to talk about it. Sometimes I talk about it more than others. But yeah, it's good to know when you're triggered too. LOL, sharks are sharks. Exactly. And they're not friendly. They don't have the capacity. Same with snakes. I mean, I used to play with a friendly snake when I was little. That was my friend's pet snake. It was a baby python. It was so cute. But no, I hate snakes. I missed the snake. I missed it too. Oh, that's so funny. I like small channels, Anna Bees. It was nice chatting. Out for mail and Pitbull want to play ball. I didn't realize you had a Pitbull, Fred. Totally agree, Justice. LOL, so much agree, wandering uteruses, aren't we? Yes, we all just need to get knocked up and quit talking about our feelings, right? Thanks for all the channel suggestions. I will check them out. Chris Norland is like probably my leading favorite right now. I love his stuff. He's just really humble, really smart, and really down to earth. And his wife is so cute. Oh my goodness. They live in South Korea and he grew up here. He tells his life story on his channel, but his wife is sharp as a tack and she can barely speak English, but even not knowing words, she still nails it every time. He loves bouncing ideas off of her because she's so freaking smart. Titanic, yes, I say it Titanic just so it's not in the algorithm. But with an S, the Titanic. Agree. Good to see you, Fred. See you later. Bye, Fred. Have a nice day. Hantavirus. Thank you, Anna Bees. It was me who said it. Oh, thank you, Anna Bees. It was you who said, why would they test for that so quickly? And that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant because, yeah, it just supports my theory that they were sitting around a table thinking, well, what would unalive somebody really fast and suddenly without warning, other than like a heart attack, because he's already doing the heart attack one. So that's already taken, right? So we got to come up with something else. Plus, she was 65 and apparently in really good health. I mean, he was 95, had a heart condition, would have probably been considered excellent health if not for the Alzheimer's, which is severe, and the heart thing severe too. Because, yeah, didn't he have a pacemaker? I think he did. Excuse me. I think that's how they knew his date of like the pacemaker was still recording things on the 17th. So they were calling the 18th his day of departure. Yes, it's rare. Right. The hantavirus. Thank you so much for saying it again. Cause yeah, I like lose track of all the letters. I'm no good with words. So yeah, one of the things I wanted to say about the people that are trying to control the world, first of all, they remind me of Plankton from SpongeBob, right? The evil Plankton who's always trying to steal the recipe for Krabby Patty. I mean, it's just your classic. That's what the Big E reminds me of. I put up a photograph of him next to one of the fish from SpongeBob that I think looks even more like him than Plankton. But he looks a lot like Plankton, except Plankton only has one eye and he's got the two eyes. He's got those big fish lips, and he looks so reptilian to me. He looks like a lizard man. He's gross. He's just gross. He could be cute if he was nice and didn't have all that plastic surgery and facial implants and crap. But I think that he and little T have major mommy daddy issues. And I think that Caroline with a K has mommy daddy issues too. I mean, we all have mommy daddy issues and we all have abandonment issues, but we're not all like trying to take over the world, are we? And So the cartoon that the little T reminds me of, do you guys remember the Underminer at the end of The Incredibles? That's what the little T reminds me of. And then the big E reminds me not only of Plankton, but also the evil bad guy from Meet the Robinsons. He's like the evil genius in the orphanage with the nice kid, right? That reminds me of Elon. Um, totally SpongeBob. I'm glad that you agree. Yes, LOL. Krabby Patties made of crabs, I thought. Right, but the secret recipe, Plankton's always trying to steal those secret recipes so he can open his own Krabby Patty Shack or whatever it's called. Good point, Billy. The evil mouse mad scientist cartoon in Pinky and the Brain. Is Pinky and the Brain a newer one or an older one? Because I'm not familiar with that, but I'll have to check it out. But yeah, they're very cartoonish. Very cartoonish. And they both wear a lot of makeup. And we won't even talk about Vance and his makeup, right? Eee. Old as the hills. Older one. Okay, Pinky and the Brain. I'll have to check that out. That's funny. That's cute. Very, very cute. So yeah, the Spy versus Spy cartoon character is what Smelania looked like the day of Carter's funeral with that hat. And I made a thumbnail of her next to the Spy versus Spy because it was like a dead ringer. And then the outfit that she wore, I think, to the one of the inauguration outfits, was that inauguration day that she wore that weird hat. Yeah, because at Carter's funeral she wore like the nun collar. And yeah, that's what it was. It was the nun collar to the funeral. And then it was like the priest thing with the Spy versus Spy to the inauguration. And then we all saw how she used that hat to dodge the kiss from the most disgusting husband, who not only cheated on her with the porn star, but also when she was like having his freaking baby. And then it's like all over the world again and again. And I think I think he's like 19 now or 20, but he's also friends with those Tate brothers, you guys. We haven't even talked about that, how Trump flew the Tate brothers. I don't know if he got them pardoned or what, because they were like in jail. Is it Andrew Tate? They're disgusting traffickers. They're like Jeffrey Epstein types. And then, they flew into Miami last week. I think both of them, at least one of them. And then I'm like, well, where are they staying? Are they staying at Mar-a-Lago? We know that that's where Epstein and, however you say, Ghislaine Maxwell, that's where they would round up some of the girls that they would traffic. Like that one, Virginia Dufresne, had been a homeless teenager, and then she got a job at Mar-a-Lago. I think she worked at the front desk or something. And then Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her for Epstein. And it's so sad. And then, she's the one that was in the pictures with Prince Andrew. Yeah. What are we doing today, Brian? Same thing as every day. I'm going to take over the world. Oh, brain. Oh, I love it. I said Brian. I'm dyslexic. I love it. What are we going to do today? The same thing we do every day, take over the world. Yeah. I ran for local politics a few years ago. And one of the reasons why I did it was because I was trying to reclaim my faith in our election system. I was kind of testing the water because I had quit voting for 10 years because of the Gore Bush election shenanigans. I just didn't believe in elections anymore. And then I was trying to get over that finally. And so I thought, what better way than to run for an office? And a friend of mine was in local politics, and he recommended it, not so much to be in local politics, but just to go through the process of campaigning for yourself, because it's very awkward to go out and start campaigning for yourself. But his point was that you learn a lot about yourself, and you do. And I'm so glad that I did it. And I did not win the election. And I ran for that office a couple of times, thinking the second time, like, oh, well, I already learned what you learn when you campaign the first time around. But then, of course, the second time around, it was completely different than the first time around. And it was just like in Ohio, we have township trustees. So that was what I ran for, was a township trustee, because it's not too political and it's not too visible. It's very like low key behind the scenes, just like basically doing grounds maintenance with like local cemeteries, and then supervising or overseeing the rescue squad, the fire department and ambulance rescue, 911, first responders, but not the police, not the police. Anyway, it was interesting running for that. And I would kind of make a lot of jokes about, when people would ask me why I was running, I was like, well, obviously to take over the world, you got to start somewhere, right? and I'd just be like, to take over the universe. Like, why would anybody run for anything? Because you want to take over the world and the universe. And, I was being very tongue in cheek and goofy, but, there's truth to every joke. And I was really, it was more like a social science experiment for myself. And I felt like I was being silly, but hopefully tuning people into that's why people run for political offices. I mean, sure, some of them are doing it to save the world and make the world a better place, but pretty much it's power and control. And that's really what everything boils down to, in my opinion. Let's see. Well, she is trash herself, so same type. Yeah, y'all remember too, LOL. They are so gross. I can hardly think about them. Pinky in the brain. So when you say she's trash too, same type, is that Caroline with a K that you're talking about? I'm not sure, because that was like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, we've been on for almost 2 hours. I thought that might happen because I'm kind of in a fog. I was kind of up all night with the moon. The moon kept me up. So I love seeing you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, T's wife. Thank you, Billy, darling. I love you. I miss you. I love seeing you in here, and especially with your whole new handle. I don't know how long it's been like that, because I know you used to always come into the chats and say, eat the rich. But now that you've added it to your handle, I just think it's great. And yeah, during the first presidency, I always felt like, Melania, if you need help, just blink twice. We'll save you. But then, she seems as bad as he is, really. I mean, she doesn't care about anybody. She's made that abundantly clear. And then Barron to be socializing with the Tate brothers, like, that's really disgusting. And then, Trump, remember he said stuff, I try not to say his name. Remember little T said about Weinstein? He's like, Weinstein got schlonged, he was a powerful man. That shouldn't have happened to him. It's like, what do you mean it shouldn't have happened to him? It shouldn't have happened to all the people that he happened to. Disgusting. And yeah, he did get schlonged. That was his whole purpose, was to schlong. Ugh, that was so gross, but it freaks me out, because it makes me think that it's quite a possibility that little T would just give him a pardon. And I've been fearful of that with Diddy this whole time too. Like, sure, he might get convicted, but then his buddy might give him a pardon. There's so many pictures of little T and Sean Combs together. They was tight. Back in the days with little E, they was tight, you guys. Yuck. And when they're always talking about, oh, we're going to release the little e-files, it's like, please do, for real. But that's never going to happen. That, again, that's like a gaslighting thing. Like they act like, oh yeah, little T wants the e-files released. It's like, yeah, he wants the fake e-files released for sure. For sure. She seems comfortable. They both rusty spies. Yes, they are, Billy Darling. And, same with the first wife. She wasn't so schmarmy, Ivana, but her father is confirmed allegedly to be a KGB type of operative, and she probably was too. And then, she suspiciously was found deceased in her apartment the day before depositions were starting for the little T and little T Jr. and Ivanka. All three of them were starting their what were expected to be week-long depositions the very next day. It was, I might be getting the date slightly off. I think it was July 14th of 2023, I believe is the right date. I might be off by a day. July 13th of 2023, Ivana. So when she passed away, those depositions were taken off the table. They eventually got rescheduled, but those were the depositions about the financial fraud, which is the thing that was very likely going to keep him from being a viable candidate to be on the Republican ticket even. So let's see, Ivana. July 14th, 2022. And then the depositions were scheduled to start July 15th, 2022. And like I said, they got canceled and eventually rescheduled. But what are the chances? Come on. And again, she was in very good health too. And then, oh man, I don't want to get all into it. We're already over 2 hours, but the whole thing with her ex-husbands, 2 of her 3 ex-husbands other than him are deceased. And then Bornstein, the doctor that wrote the letter or let little T write a letter that it was on his stationery. Bornstein said that little T was the healthiest specimen that the world has ever seen for a president. And then he later said that little T had dictated that letter, that he didn't really write it. And then he wound up deceased 2 days after the insurrection, January 8th of 2021, from an undisclosed cause and an undisclosed location. And then we know Ivana is buried at, is it called Bedminster, the golf course that little T owns up there in New Jersey? I think where it probably says right here where she's buried. Let's see. Yeah, Bedminster, New Jersey. The T-Rump National Golf Club. And I mean, she seemed like a pretty likable person, actually. She seemed pretty sharp and much better than the current one. But man, anyway, what a train wreck. Like, how did we get to this point that this is real? It's so surreal. It is absolutely so surreal. So another channel I really like, you guys, I don't know if you have ever heard of Rosie Insights. She's really cute. She's got like 30,000 subs. She's getting a lot of views because she's doing a lot of political stuff and people really like her stuff. I know I really like her stuff, but I think she started her channel as like a tarot reader, and she's very interesting. She just kind of has visions, and she just talks freely about them, and she's not afraid of being wrong. And, you know, she's not afraid of looking crazy. This timeline sucks. We should change it. Seems like a lot of hushing people, maybe, in my opinion. Absolutely. And all of that went away. Right. Well, they did do the depositions, and then that whole lawsuit is still a thing because he inflated the values of his properties ginormously in efforts to get bigger loans and better rates. So it was financial fraud, and he was busted. And I think that's what the 34 counts in New York are from the New York courts. Exactly what I was thinking, Billy. I pretend none of this is happening. I try. I mean, that's kind of how I got through the first time around. And then I was just like, there's just no way I can deal with it a second time. I really thought I would just move to Canada. And then I was like, you know, I live here. This is my country. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are pushing back, and that's good. I feel like that's doing something. I really do. So ending on a positive note. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. You're the best. And I have 7 people in the house and 7 likes. So yeah. Have you guys ever heard of Rosie Insights? Is it Rosie Insights or Rosie's Insight? Anyway, check it out. I've put a link to her channel in one of my last 2 lives, I think. I don't know. Actually, my last 2 lives were yesterday. So yeah, I got cut off yesterday after 31 minutes, 2 times, and doing it on my cell phone because my laptop wouldn't even do it. That was wild. So I'm so glad that everybody got to catch this. And I hate to wrap it up because it's like we're all here. It's like we're all having a little tea party, and then I don't want to say goodbye, but I must. Yeah, I couldn't believe yesterday either, Anna Bees. It was weird. You know, it was one of those days where I was a little less filtered because I do try to skate on the thin ice of, you know, what you're supposed to do on the tube. And I was being a little more blunt. And also it's another reason why I don't announce my lives so much, is because I don't want to alert the trolls. So a lot of times I just come on, like I put the live up right before I come on, but I like to alert my viewers. So I like to try to alert you at least an hour in advance, if not many hours in advance. So, you know, it's all just a big science experiment. Just keep mixing it up and see how it goes. And thank you guys so much for being here and being so encouraging, because this is extremely therapeutic. Today was like a double therapy. And sorry, I keep having a thing in my throat. Let me drink a little more coffee. Have a great day and weekend, everyone. Love and light. Don't forget to eat the rich, right? What else? Take really good care of yourselves. Check out Rosie Insights. I'll put a link in the description to one of hers that is like one of my favorites, I think. Like, she's actually traveling right now. She's in The Hague. And so she put up a video today, and she put up one yesterday. She's very interesting. Her and her friend, I think her friend's name is Corinne or Corrine, and they do very well together, interacting and presenting material. So yeah, Chris Norland, he is the bomb with his cute little South Korean wife. So smart. They are so smart. Anyway, love and light, you guys. Thanks again. And yeah, I'll try to get a good night's sleep. And I hope you guys do too. And hopefully we won't have any more trouble on the live streams. Thanks a million. Have a great weekend.